Hey there, thanks for tuning in to Duckbricks. I'm Chris, and today we have some exciting LEGO news. So LegoCon just happened, which is kind of LEGO's live celebration and event to announce some of their newest products. And by far one of the biggest announcements of the event was the unveiling of the LEGO 90th anniversary winning model. If you aren't aware of what exactly this is, around last year LEGO held a vote on LEGO ideas to decide what theme would be chosen to represent LEGO for their 90th anniversary. Well, eventually the winner was Castle, and we have a fantastically detailed, epically massive Lion King's castle for all of you to see. I can't wait to get my hands on this, but for now, let's just take a closer look at all the detailed pictures because this is one of my most anticipated sets of the year. This is set number 10305, the Lion Knights Castle, retailing for around $400 US. This releases on August 3rd, containing 21 minifigures and 4,514 pieces, making it the largest castle set ever released. Now this is truly a celebration of many different eras of LEGO Castle. Obviously the focus is on Lion Knights itself, but they actually have a lot of nods to Forest Men, as well as Magisto the Magic Wizard, and a whole lot of other Easter eggs to boot. And there's a reason for it, which we'll be getting into later in the video. But first, let's take a look at the set itself. Immediately, the most striking thing to me is how they made a very unique and recognizable front for the castle that not only feels very realistic, but also feels like something unlike LEGO has ever done for LEGO Castle before. I really love the way that they actually have the windows done on the castle being very narrow vertical slits. They have two large towers on the gatehouse there, and importantly, they even have some civilian buildings with a very nice thatched roof element being used like the spiked tooth element or fur element for the roof there. All in all, this is truly a fully detailed castle, and you actually do have the option to have it splayed out in a more wall-like formation, or to have it fully closed up, where you can see here on the back of the box, you can either have the interior being showcased like so, or you can have it actually all wrapped up to a much more realistic look and feel for a 360-degree experience. Now, Brickset actually sat down to interview the designer of the castle, and they mentioned that this was actually meant to incorporate multiple different versions of the different castle sub-themes, and to acknowledge the whole castle universe instead of one specific model. What I found very interesting here is that they mentioned the 90th anniversary vote, and they mentioned that there was some understandable criticism for splitting Castle into multiple sub-themes, which caused some problems with the voting, but also helped them understand how many fans there were for different castle ranges, which if you recall back to when the original 90th anniversary vote was being held, that was pretty much my prediction too, that I figured that the only reason why they actually split it up was just to do some little bit of market research to understand what exactly people were looking for. They specifically mentioned that there was a massive degree of interest in Lion Knights, Black Falcons, Forest Men, and Fright Knights, specifically compared to many of the other castle themes. And because of this, they tried to actually incorporate these 4 different main sub-themes into one castle, despite focusing on the Lion Knights themselves. They did also mention that going into the design of the castle, they wanted to make it focused on Lion Knights being one of the more traditional castle themes to make it feel a little bit more realistic, but they also did want to include some of the more fantastical elements, hence the inclusion of Magisto the Wizard, and even some Black Falcons and Forest Men elements as well. What's really special about the set is that they actually introduced one new element. They mentioned specifically that they had the budget to make one new element for the set, so instead of just making, say, a new Knight's helmet or a minifigure accessory, they decided to make a much more versatile building element in the form of the archway to expand on the basic brick family where they could. And you can see that archway specifically in use on the front of the castle, which is a slightly new piece which kind of expands the LEGO Curve family. But of course, it's now time to take a look closer at the actual set itself. Now this obviously is the most detailed LEGO Castle LEGO has ever done. I am incredibly blown away by the amount of details included both on the exterior and interior of the castle, and I just really appreciate how much detail you can find while just looking at different nooks and crannies of the castle itself. I think that the easiest place to start is actually by looking at the exterior and going into the interior first. So obviously, as you can see 2 different colors of the Lion Knight shield on the front gateway there. I love the inclusion of the fabric elements for the flags, which is absolutely a callback to classic LEGO Castle sets. And I especially love how they made the roofs a much more realistic dark tan and nougat color, which feels just a lot more in line with a real LEGO Castle. Honestly, my only complaint is that the ramp leading out of the castle just feels kind of basic compared to the rest of the castle being a very intricate and detailed build. Just layering slopes on top of each other for the opening ramp feels a little bit odd to me, and honestly, I kind of wish that it was a bit more realistic in terms of steps, although that absolutely would have raised the part count. I also do appreciate, however, that they actually made the trunks of the trees black as a callback to the original LEGO Forest Men sets, which featured some black tree trunks, to really tie it back into the Forest Men era of stuff. And of course, as you circle your way around the castle, there is a working water wheel, which is a must-have for a large LEGO castle like this, and all sorts of foliage scattered throughout, including what appears to be a brand new recolor for the classic LEGO tree piece in dark green, which to me is incredibly exciting, and I'm so glad LEGO is continuing to recolor such a classic LEGO element. Now, going on to the inside of the castle, one of my favorite features are prints of the different shields. These shields are actually meant to be callbacks to the original Yellow Castle, which featured these exact emblems being used for the different visiting knights to the Yellow Castle itself. I really appreciate how they actually have the arms of each of these different factions being printed on the shields themselves in a modern LEGO set, although, to be honest, I probably would have preferred printed shields that actually reference different factions from LEGO's castle history, instead of just those random factions that really only appeared in the original 375 Yellow Castle set. Still, it's amazing to see some new prints for vintage LEGO shields, and I'm really happy they managed to include that here. So once you go into the walk bridge, or the drawbridge area here, there is a bit of a holding pen for the horse. I also appreciate how they have ladders and stairs on the inside of the castle to really make it feel like you can get your minifigures to different floors. There is a bit of a space for the magician, and even a kid building a small version of the original Yellow Castle in his room. Up on the top there is an armory, we've got a dungeon, a whole dining table with a very intricate table build, as well as some chambers for the queen of the castle or the queen knight, and some underground storage areas as well. All in all, this looks like a really fun castle build to play with, and I really appreciate the inclusion of all sorts of inner details to really make the castle come to life and feel like the minifigures all have a special place to go. And speaking of the minifigures, I think now is a good time to take a much closer look at the absolutely insane minifigure selection featured in the set. So, of course, the main focus is on the Lion Knights themselves. We have a beautifully detailed Lion Knight's queen, who has an interchangeable hairpiece with crown or just a knight's helmet. She has a really nice printed cape, which is a callback to some of the printed capes we got for older LEGO Knights, as well as a new print for the torso underneath the armor and new printing for the legs as well. Of course, the updated Lion Knights are featuring all new prints for the torsos and legs. Most of them are pretty much the same, but it comes with an insane amount of Lion Knights. I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different Lion Knights, with the Queen included. That brings us to 10 total, which is an insane amount, and they actually are bringing back a torso from one of the collectible minifigure series for the boy figure there. It returns from one of the recent minifig series of this year, so interesting seeing them do that. Aside from them, we have a couple of civilian figures, including a torso print that is a direct callback to one of the vintage LEGO torso prints for civilians they did for Castle back in the day, and they thankfully also include 3 different Black Falcon Knights. Of course, the torso and legs are from the Black Falcon's Medieval Blacksmith from LEGO Ideas just in 2021, but it is great to see those actually being reintroduced for this set, because I really do love army building these particular Black Falcons, and they do actually feature black helmets, which is a little bit different from what we're used to. Moving onwards, we have another set of civilian figures, specifically a female civilian featuring a specialized head hairpiece, which is again returning from the collectible minifigures, and we actually have 3 different Forest Men as well. I love that LEGO made an updated Forest Men print for the special gift with purchase set, the Forest Men's Hideout, which is currently available right now and hopefully will be available again when this castle comes out. And last but not least, they made a brand new Magisto the Wizard minifigure, who unfortunately has a plain blue torso and leg piece. This is honestly the only minifigure of the set that is kind of a miss for me, because LEGO does have the right pieces for an updated wizard. They actually literally have the pieces in their Build a Minifigure towers at LEGO stores today, so I find it kind of odd how they do not actually have it being used for this set. And in fact, if you look at the older version of Magisto, he had a printed torso piece, so it's not like it's trying to tie back to the old version of the wizard. I just don't really know why it's just plain blue. I guess it feels kind of retro and classic, but it is added at a significant cost to me. And I really do wish that they just included that build a minifigure tower piece, although thankfully that one is not very rare because again, they have it literally at pretty much every single LEGO store nowadays. Now this also does include quite a number of different animals. We have a baby lamb returning from the LEGO City Farm sets, plus the cow, which also was introduced in the 4+ farm. And we have the horse returning from the Ideas Medieval Blacksmith, although thankfully LEGO has actually reintroduced one of the classic LEGO horse cow pieces, or the armor pieces. It is really great to be able to see that as a brand new piece being reintroduced for the Black Falcons, and I'm really glad they also got that piece available for the Lion Knights themselves. It is really great to see so many different animals and people being introduced in this set, which really makes it feel alive and like its own thing. And of course, how could I forget to mention the expertly detailed Forest Men's hideout, which is a direct callback to their original Fortress hideout, which caused a boulder to be removed for them to sit in. I love how they actually managed to work that in directly into the side of the castle itself. All in all, this is probably the best castle set LEGO has ever made. It absolutely blows away pretty much any previous LEGO attempts at castles, which is really shocking because those were already very, very good, and I cannot wait to get my hands on it. Lastly, we do have to talk about one last thing, which is value. So the value of this set is $400 or 345 British pounds or 400 euros, which brings us to about a 7.6 pence price per piece ratio or an 8.9 cent price per piece ratio, which is pretty good. But to be completely honest, just looking at the amount of stuff included in the set, I do kind of feel like 400 is a little bit high for this particular build. I would have appreciated it being at even just 370, maybe 350, but 400 does feel a little high because, again, it is just one castle, and folded up, it is very large, but it also is a very compact thing. Now, of course, I do really have to have this in hand to really be able to judge it fairly on value. Do stay tuned for my review on that, because I will be, of course, putting out a full detailed review when the set eventually comes out, so I cannot wait to have it in hand. This, for now, is just kind of a sneak peek at the return of classic LEGO Castle. I have actually linked the interview with the designer of the set down in the description below on Brickset. It is really great they actually were able to interview the designer because they have a lot of really interesting details and points about it. They actually do mention that at some point they considered actually just making a massive Forest Men hideout, but they decided that having the set celebrating the castle theme without a proper castle would not have really felt right. So it seems that Forest Men is definitely one of the most interesting and most sought after LEGO sub-themes of castle, so I do actually like how they included it here. There's a lot more details in that interview, so I do recommend you check it out. But beyond that, we have pretty much wrapped up our look at this castle. Alright, and with that, we have summed up my thoughts on the LEGO 90th anniversary set. This is truly an amazing set to commemorate a big milestone for the LEGO group, and I can't wait to see you 10 years from now for LEGO's 100th anniversary. Man, they should be doing some really exciting stuff for that. So we'll stay tuned for that, but as of right now, thank you so much for tuning into Duck Bricks. Let me know down in the comments below, what do you think of this model? Do you like it? Do you dislike it? Do you wish any of the other themes won? And what do you think of my analysis on why this was probably the smartest choice for LEGO to do for the 90th anniversary set? With that, thanks all so much for tuning in. I'll talk to you again very soon, and bye-bye for now.